Hello, my name is Jeremy. This is Red Means Recording, and today I am here to talk to you about the Teenage Engineering PO-35 Speak, which is part of the new metal series that they released, starting with the PO-32 Tonic, followed by the PO-33 KO, and now the PO-35 Speak. Okay, so what is it? This is a really unique one. It seems to be a sampler that takes the input of your recording and turns it into a sort of a synth using a speech synthesis algorithm. And there are multiple algorithms we'll go on in a bit. So basically, anything that you record into it, be it a vocal or a drum loop or anything like that, gets synthesized into an instrument using an algorithm that would be to process artificial speech. And then, if that wasn't enough, channel 16 here is actually a single channel instance of the PO-32 Tonic drum machine. That means that you can actually swap out the kit on this like you can with the PO-32 Tonic, which is really, really cool. Each one of these 15 slots can record up to 8 seconds of audio, either via the microphone or the line in over here, and I'll show you both. That's 120 seconds of sample memory on this guy. There are 8 different voice characteristics you can apply to every sample that you import. Let me pick one real quick. You just wanna touch it. 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 These are also parameter lockable as well, which I'll show you later, which is really, really cool. There are also 8 different effects that you can play down here using the effects button, which I'll show you in a bit after we make a pattern. Speaking of patterns, there are 16 patterns available, and you can pattern chain them, which I'll show you in a second once we go through all the layout here. It also features the ability to back up and restore via the line in and line out, and sync to other things like other pocket operators and Korg Volcas pretty easily using different sync modes, which I can also show you a bit later. So yeah, let's dive into this a little bit more and talk about the layout. First off, you have the sound button up here. And the sound button, when you hold it down, can select one of the 16 sounds of the device. That's 1 through 15 for sampled sounds and 16 for the drum machine. The interesting thing to note about this, which I've discovered recently, is that whatever the last pitch trigger that you've hit for that particular sound is what will play when you hit sound and the button. The reason this is cool is because you can select a specific note for each thing, and then you can play them just by sort of hitting the sound plus the sound button, which is cool for performances. I'm not really explaining it super well, but I'll show you in practice down the line. The other thing the sound button will do is when you're hitting the microtonic button down here, the drum machine, it will cycle through the drum hits, which again is useful if you want to affect that trigger using like the morph effect or some of the effects, which I'll show you in a bit. The pattern button, when held down, selects one of 16 patterns that you can record, and you can chain them by pressing more than one pattern while you have that pattern button held down. And if you want to play like pattern one, or any pattern more than like 2 or 3 times, you can do that. You can press these in any order you want. So if I want 5 to play 4 times, and then 6, 7, and then 8 3 times, you just press them exactly like that, and now you've got a chain. The BPM button right here, when you hold it down, will affect BPM over here and swing right here. Pressing the BPM a few times will switch between 80, 120, and 140 BPM if you just want to kind of get to a quick BPM there between hip hop, disco, and tenko. The other thing the BPM button will do is if you hold it down and select 1 through 16, you will adjust the volume of the device, 1 being the lowest and 16 being the highest. These knobs over here, besides being the BPM and swing knobs, will also be what you use to change effects on each one of these things. There are 2 kinds of effects for each voice. We have trim and tone banks. Tone has formant. Kind of switches like the pitch, almost like the quote-unquote gender of the voice. And over here we have actual pitch, which you can dial in to tune things to each other. The other bank is trim, which is the speed. This knob adjusts speed. And this starts the start point. So you can dial in where you want the sample to start and how fast you want it to go, all the way down to becoming just a single note. Here's the record button. If you hold this down and select one of 15 things here and hold that button down, you will now record to that sample slot either via the microphone or if you have something plugged in here via the line in, just like this. Lovely. Record held down plus pattern will erase the current pattern. Yeah, it's gone forever. So make sure you back stuff up before you go crazy with the clear. Record plus BPM will switch between different sync modes. And right now, because of the way this is set up, I can only switch between 0 and 1. 1 will give me a metronome on the left-hand side, which is actually a sync signal, but if you need a metronome to record something, you can hit record BPM and switch between sync 1 and sync 0. We talked about the effects button in conjunction with the knobs, but once again, it will switch between these two banks of effects. On the drum machine, you have different effects. You have morph and pitch. Because the Tonic Drum Machine is drum synthesis, you can actually get very cool variations of the drums depending on how the kit was set up in Microtonic. The effects button also will allow you to change the voice mode and play one of the pattern effects that is down here. I'll show you that real quick. So those are the different voice modes, and right now in play I'm affecting every single voice on the thing. These are the pattern effects. Those are really fun, and those can be step locked, parameter locked to each step, just like the voices can, which is really, really cool. One of the things I forgot to talk about the knobs real quick, and the pattern button, this is kind of a new thing for the pocket operators. Holding down pattern and turning these knobs will now allow you to change the key and the scale mode for this. And this is really, really, really cool. We haven't seen this in a pocket operator before. So we have major, minor, blues scale, and Arabic. And it won't switch until you let go, which is really cool for changing the key and scale of it on the fly. For instance, I can go from negative C up to positive C, and that's basically a transposition unit. So I've gone up like 2 octaves now. The play button here, as I talked about in my last video, we are still not really sure what's going on here. I got some comments. People seem to be pretty confused still about this. So again, I'm looking for answers. If anyone knows what the heck this button does, please let me know. I feel bad making this video without really being able to talk about it properly. All right, the right button has a bunch of different functions. When you press it once, this little circle and a square thing pops up, and this means you're in step mode. Step mode acts as a step sequencer, so if I pick a sound and press steps, it will play on those steps. With the drum machine in step mode, the last trigger that you press will be the one that you affect in step mode. So if I want to kick, I want to hit the kick button, then hit step mode, and now I can put that down. Exit step mode. Pick a hi-hat. Cool, so you get the gist of step mode. There's also a live record mode. If you hold down right while you're playing, you'll be able to play live. So let's try that real quick. The other thing the right button will allow you to do is record effects in real time and even commit them to the pattern itself. I'm going to put a little bit more stuff in this pattern real quick. The first thing I can do is like change the format in real time of this particular sound. So make sure that I'm in tone mode so I can change format. And then I'm going to hit play and hold down right button and play with that knob. Okay, cool. So that's format. I can do the same thing down with the drum machine. The other thing you can do is record effects, both the voice change and the effect down here. So that acts a little differently. You press right once to engage right mode or edit mode right here, and you can see the little circle in a square. And now when I hit play, hold down effects, I can start recording some effects. So you can hear the voice mode changing now. I can do the same thing for these step effects down here. If you want to undo the automation you did, this 16 effects down here is a sort of a nothing effect. So I'm going to hit play in edit mode and hold down effects and hit that, and it will erase the step effects that I just recorded. There we go. A couple other things real quick. There is no off switch. It will auto power off after a short time, and you'll know that it's powered off because you'll only see the time. You won't see this really groovy little display going on here. You can always check the level of your battery by hitting sound and BPM, and I'm doing pretty well on battery. Look at that. You can do a factory reset by holding pattern and right while inserting the batteries. Reset. It's one of the greatest default samples in the history of default samples. So that's the basic functionality of this. Why don't we try recording some stuff into it?
Oh, my, I'm feeling high.
DJ Donkey Kong. I got my mind made up. Come on, get in.
Till my stone cold grave, I'll be pushing on.
All right, I got my samples recorded. What I've done is I've gone through and trimmed them and changed them all in the same pitch, so I can just hold down the sound button and play them each just by pressing sound plus the thing, as opposed to playing them on the full chromatic keyboard that would happen if I let go of this and played it now. And this means I can jam on these 5 sounds now, which is pretty cool. And this one, of course, because that's really important too. So I'm going to lay down a beat and start making a pattern real quick. Hey, yeah, so that's the PO-35. I'm going to upload some more jams with this thing on the channel a little bit later, so keep an eye out for that. I think this is one of the most interesting things that Teenage Engineering has put out in a long time, and I'm really hoping to see this speech technology come into something like the OPZ or somewhere else where I can really get into it a little bit more. I think this is a really amazing thing to have around with you. I was sampling from it on the train on the way to work, via my phone, via the microphone, and just like the format shifting and the way that it turns everything into a synth is just incredibly fun. Hats off to you, Teenage Engineering. You made a bass drum. And it's massive. All right, that's it. My name is Jeremy. This is Red Means Recording, and I hope you're having a wonderful day.